If you watch the news or read newspapers, you will have heard about GMO, genetically modified organisms. So what is this about? When it comes to science, medicine and research, well, we learn from our experiences, from past research, from new research. I mean, here adverts coming from the 1930s. Look at the one, cocaine toothache drops. Cocaine toothache drops for children? We know today that's a no-no. Look at the other ones there, but cigarettes. Lucky strikes are less irritating, or to keep a slender figure, no one can deny, reach for a lucky. And even look at the other one, sugar just might be the willpower you need to curb your appetite. Today we know better. Science is always developing and finding out new information. So how must we look at GMOs? Now, what is GMO? Well, that is when they take the genetic makeup of an organism and they make changes to it. They change the structure, therefore, of the DNA. Inside the cell nucleus, you find the chromosomes. As humans, we've got 46 chromosomes. Inside the chromosome, you find the DNA. They take the DNA and they change a gene segment of the DNA. In other words, a section of the DNA called a gene, they change that by inserting a gene with a required trait into that DNA. The gene that they use may come from bacteria, from insects, from animals, but it contains a specific target trait. For example, by taking corn and they're inserting a gene in the corn, they make the corn now resistant to herbicide sprays. So they can spray a weed killer, which will kill all the weeds, but the corn does not die. But because they use a gene from another type of organism, they now call it a transgenic organism, because it involves the transfer of genes from one organism to another organism. Change the DNA using scientific methods. Well, they can add or insert a gene, or they can remove a gene, they can switch a gene on or off, or they can change one molecule of a gene, or they can alter the histones. These are all things that we can do to change the makeup of the DNA and therefore what you inherit. There are several advantages of genetically engineering plants. You can have larger fruit and vegetables, so instead of small tomatoes, you can have big tomatoes. Instead of having 10 tomatoes per plant, you might end up with 20 or 30 tomatoes per plant, so you have more fruit. The crops can be made drought resistant, so therefore even if not a lot of rain, and you can also need less water, the plants can still grow. The plants might be disease resistant, so therefore when certain pest comes along, the plant survives. You can spray herbicides, weed killers over the crop, and the crop won't die, but the weeds will. They've done this to corn. So the corn plant is resistant to the weed killer, and now the millage will last, the corn will grow, the weeds are killed. You can produce more food this way, which may even lead to cheaper food. The food can even be tastier by inserting the right type of genes into the plant. The food can be tastier or even more nutritious. You may need less pesticides now because the crop is resistant to pests. You might get faster growing plants, so instead of waiting after 6 months for the plant to produce crops, you take 4 months now to produce crops. And all this can lead to food security, so it sounds quite good. We've taken a look at some of the advantages of GMO foods. What about disadvantages? Well, these foods can be inherently unstable, so substances inside it might break down to form other substances. We can have allergic reactions to this kind of food. People can get antibiotic resistance because of this kind of food. It can lead to immunosuppression, of your immune systems can be suppressed. Therefore, we can't fight disease as well as we're supposed to. This makes us prone to getting sick. It can lead to cancer. There can be even a loss of nutrition because of the gene being switched off because the gene you inserted. toxins can be produced, foreign proteins can be produced in the plant, which can obviously explain now things like allergic reactions or immunosuppression or cancer. The crop may contain a herbicide, like the cornfield, which is spread a weed killer. The weed killer goes into the plant and then ends up inside the corn, and we eat that corn. Even in small dosages, in the long run, it can have a negative impact on the health. It also can release toxins into the soil and damage the soil. Also, spraying the crops with pesticides and herbicides, those sprays can go into the soil and also disturb the quality of the soil and the organisms inside the soil. Cross-pollination with wild plants and weeds can take place, or with other non-GMO crops, and as a fact, there are already some weeds that have cross-pollinated with some of the GMO plants, and these weeds are also now resistant to weed killer. So we're creating monster weeds. Pests can also become resistant to pesticides, and we need to control pests, otherwise we get smaller crops again. And this can disrupt or decrease biodiversity. If you're thinking carefully, the crops we have today come from wild varieties. They were cross-pollinated using natural processes, in other words, to produce food for us. So if we continue to go on GMO foods, we start not using those other crops anymore. If a disease comes along that might kill the GMO crop, where are the other crops now? We have seeds for them. It can lead to biodiversity loss. Now, why the uncertainty and the caution? Well, there are all the disadvantages to make you think. A gene, however, may also code for more than one protein. Now, this is a problem here. A gene that thought in the past codes only for one protein. Recent research indicates actually a gene can code for more than one protein. So you take a gene from a rat or virus or wherever you get it from that codes for a certain protein, you put it inside the corn plant, and now the corn plant makes the protein which you want, but it may also code for other proteins, and these other proteins may be harmful. A gene may have an unknown function. We know that some genes help to code for proteins. We know that other genes help to switch genes on and off and have other functions. So you might put a gene into your plant, into your food crop, and it might have another function which can lead to something we don't want. A gene may affect another gene in the nucleus, switch it off or switch it on. So we don't know all these connections yet. And that's a problem. We do not know about how genes functions. They're still learning about it. There's so much information we don't have. A lot of uncertainty. A gene can also be read backwards, even skipping some of the code. It's like reading the top sentence which says why, the uncertainty and caution. It can read why, uncertainty, caution. Or to read backwards. It's a bit difficult to read this backwards, say, nooit, whatever, yeah. But that's what genes do. They can read backwards and forwards, they can skip words, and every time they read it differently, they code for a different protein. We need to make sure about all these different readings or methods that the genes are used for coding. DNA code is still a mystery. Maybe in 10 or 15, 20 years from now, we may know more about these and we can make GMO crops that are safe. Currently, there's a lot of uncertainty, and therefore, caution. We need more research to clarify these issues. Why the uncertainty and caution? Here are some other reasons why. Many of the studies that claim that GMO foods are safe come from the producers of GMOs or from researchers paid by these companies. Such studies often contradict studies that indicate that GMO crops may be unsafe. This begs the question of reliability of the studies that claim that GMO foods are safe. Who must you believe? Who must you trust? We know, unfortunately, that so often new medicine even comes to the market, supposed to be good, and then a few years later it's get withdrawn because there are problems with it. Real-life cases often show us that we cannot take research for granted. These are examples of Erin Brockovich as well as Dark Waters, two very good movies based on real life experiences where companies with their researchers said, no, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, it's safe, but it came out eventually that they were not correct. So we must still caution here because we have so much more to learn about GMOs. Several countries have banned GMO foods. The question is why? Obviously there's a lot of uncertainty. So there's caution because we have still so much to learn about GMO, how to do it and how to do it safely. There are concerns about the safety of GMO foods, as well as the limitations of the procedures followed in the evaluation of their safety. Furthermore, animal toxicity studies with certain GMO foods have shown that they may toxically affect several organs and systems. However, many years of research with animals and clinical trials are required for this assessment. There's lots we will still do. The use of recombinant GH or expression in animals can also lead to problems. It's been shown that it increases IGF-1, which may promote cancer. Dr. Cerulini, a 2-year study, showed that GMO foods can develop tumors. Like the one rat has got breast cancer, other one has got testicular cancer. Now there are some counterclaims made in an attempt to discredit the study, but the criticism does not remove the doubt that GMO foods may contain toxins that can cause cancer. And there are other studies that support the findings of Dr. Cerulini. GMO crops are relatively new, and researchers know little about the long-term safety and health effects. There are several health concerns regarding GMO foods, and the evidence varies. Reaching a conclusion will require more research. Uncertainty is the issue. Now, why take the risk with our health? Why take the risk of getting cancer or an autoimmune disease? Because once you've got it, you have challenges. Well, how do you avoid eating GMO foods? Well, just say no. Don't buy those type of foods. You can't always avoid them, but try and avoid them because there are many dangers. The 5 most prevalent GMO crops is sugar beets, soy, canola, cotton and corn. So cottonseed oil, why buy a product as in cottonseed oil? Canola oil, not as safe as people try to make it to be. Soy, unless it's Japanese soy, as non-GMO is not a good choice. Corn, in a country like South Africa, more than 80% of corn is GMO. So look around for non-GMO or GMO-free options. You might find in other foods, you might find GMO as well, because animals are fed GMOs. So some of the ingredients of GMO might end up in these sources as well. How to avoid it? Look for non-GMO seal or an organic seal. If something is truly organic, it will also be non-GMO. It is still challenging to decipher the long-term effects, hence the fear of safety. So rather avoid it. Our health is under attack. Many sprays are systemic. The chemical goes into the fruit and the vegetables and we cannot rinse it off, we can wash it off, it's inside. Crops are made GMO so the crop won't get damaged by the sprays. We are so clever, we spray it and we eat it. One of the big culprits is glyphosate, which is found in Roundup, which is a weed killer, which is sprayed over crops after the crop has been made GMO. The crop is now resistant to the glyphosate, so therefore they can spray Roundup to kill the weeds. Some people claim that 95% of all chronic disease is caused by food choice, toxic food ingredients, nutritional deficiencies, and lack of physical exercise. Our health is under attack, but how do we know whether something is GMO free? Because labels can be misleading. Like this example, this label said non-GMO. Consumer Reports noticed this. They tested the chip, found the chip was actually GMO. it went to a court case. The company won the court case because they said the label, the non-GMO, is for the packaging, not for the ingredients. Now that is very misleading. So how do you know who to trust? That's disgusting. Common GMO in South Africa is canola, corn, cottonseed, soy. What about milk? Another problem in South Africa, our milk has lost its quality because of a hormone which is a recombinant bovine growth hormone. In South Africa they give it another name, but it's the same thing. It's a genetically engineered hormone. Several countries in Europe and all over the world have banned the use of this hormone. Again, why would some countries ban it? There must be a good reason. They inject this so the cow will produce more milk. But this leads to severe physical and mental strain. And the cow may suffer from more than 10 medical conditions linked to the use of RBGH. Problem. This may influence the development of certain tumors. It may increase the risk of breast cancer and other types of cancer in humans that consume the milk. So we drink that milk, we run a health risk. The milk may contain antibiotics. It may lead to lactose intolerance because the antibiotics kills the good bacteria in your gut. There is a possible link also to glucose resistance when consuming this milk. In South Africa, in a shop like Woolworths, you can buy hormone-free milk. There are other shops too. Can we trust labels? Here are some seals of accountability or third-party seals that if you see them on a product, it gives you some security, some comfort that the product has been tested and therefore it should be fine. Because of the toxins we might be getting in from our GMO foods, it might be good to detox. Remove the toxins from the body so your immune function can improve. It might jumpstart a weight loss program. It can slow premature aging because the toxins out of the body can function better and might increase energy levels. Your body talks to you and it tells you that there are things that are wrong. For example, if you've got bad digestion problems like sluggish or bloated, you're continuously tired, or you're irritable or overwhelmed, or you've got sleeping problems, your mind can be foggy, memory, concentration problems, your skin can be dull or even skin breakouts, or your weight might not be ideal. These could all be signs your body's talking to you saying, detox, detox, detox me please. There are many recipes available on the internet about detox programs using herbs and foods like broccoli and cabbage and celery and Swiss chard and turmeric, and some of these will also help control blood sugar levels to the diabetics as well. But some of these programs will not be suitable for diabetics. But go search on the internet, you might find some healthy options there. Here are some more options you can look at that will also help you with detoxing. Ginger is very good, pineapple is also very good. Make smoothies or juices from these to help detox the body. If you want to use supplements to detox, then what must you look for? Well, the experts say ask the following when comparing supplements. First, is it made from whole food that humans eat? Others, not synthetics. Are there studies that show that these products that you're using are actually digested by the body and therefore absorbed by the body? Is there third-party studies showing that these products actually get absorbed into the blood and show that the products to help? Are there clinical trials that show whether it helps you or harms you? Are the minerals chelated because that enhances the absorption of the mineral? Is it produced under pharmaceutical license? Therefore, what's in the product is on the label, as the label is in the product. Is it free of GMOs, of toxins, of synthetics, of artificial substances like artificial sweetness? Ask yourself these questions when buying a supplement, because you don't want to put stuff in the body that can harm. There are many good detox programs out there, or recipes like I mentioned before, which you can find on the internet. Here's a company like NeoLife who has got this simple detox program. There's a cleanse, and then it's a balance and energize step. In 3 days, you do the following. Day 1 and 2, the fruit and vegetables you eat, and you do not eat any protein-rich foods. And day 3, you reintroduce healthy foods again. They've got a program worked out. It's a whole food-based program. No chemicals, no drugs, any substances like that included. Get more information without any obligation. Contact us. Consider joining us in a quest to make the world a healthier and happier place. Contact the person who invited you for more information, or the person who sent you the video, so you can ask questions and find out how you can do this, because it can lead you to better health and can help other people also. I've got many years of studies to help me with my research. Now, disclaimer, nothing I mentioned here must be seen as a prescription, as a medical prescription, doesn't replace a doctor's prescription. These are simply suggestions to help the body cope better and deal with health problems.